I think we arrived at 11 p.m. like with our like
Stop.
Yeah.
backpacks and like a trolley.
Our first night in the kitchen was we felt so defeated after. We were like, oh
You guys have been friends since high school, which is nuts.
crazy.
Did you guys know you wanted to start a business together?
Not
No.
at all.
Really? Wait,
No.
tell me more. How did this come to be?
Yeah. So we were kind of friends in high school, like the type that would see each other at parties, but we weren't
So not besties.
tight.
No, we
were
went to
not
different
besties.
schools.
Yeah.
We just knew each other from literally high school house parties. That was how we initially
Like I had
met.
been to a party at Stella's house
Before we
and-
were
before we
friends.
were friends. Yeah.
Wait, I love that.
Yeah,
Okay.
which is so funny. So we were not that close. It was never in our mind to start a business together.
Uh-huh.
But then we ended up going to the same university. So we both went to McGill.
Mm-hmm.
And we became, I think, a lot closer at McGill, especially in the last couple of years. We kind of were in the same friend group and we started hanging out a lot more.
But the story of how we actually started working together
Yeah.
is kind of a funny one. So we knew each other at McGill. We became friends, close friends, I would say, towards the end of our
Yeah.
university stint. And then after university, I went to school for holistic nutrition. And out of school, I had this food blog. At the time, it was called Stellar Health. And I was working with nutrition clients, and people just kept asking me to cook for them. They would see what I was making, and they would go, oh, it would just be easier if you would cook for me. So I was like, okay, how hard can that be? So I literally started a meal delivery business in Toronto called Stellar Eats as like a riff off of Stellar Health, and grew that to, you know, delivering hundreds of meals around the city. But a lot of the things that made us so great was like we were organic, everything was paleo, it was grain free, and it just was so expensive to run. I knew nothing about running a business. Truly, I came from, you know, I was a self-taught chef and nutritionist.
Also, like, diving into a food business at that is, like, a whole different level of, like, oh, my God.
Wild.
We joke now. I feel like I got such a crash course in running a business. This was back in 2018. I don't even know if I knew what a margin was. Like, I knew nothing when I started. I was just like, oh, I'll make meals. Like, that price feels good.
Yeah.
Especially working with fresh food when you don't know is just, it's a lot.
So then.
So meanwhile, we had kept in touch and I was working in sales and marketing. I had a corporate job. I was kind of bored. I always wanted to do something a little bit more creative. I didn't think I would become an entrepreneur, but I just was kind of itching for something different. And I was at my job one day, sitting at my desk, and I was searching on Indeed for jobs. I was like, I just want to do maybe something in food. That's what I wanted to get into.
Wait, why?
Just because I was cooking a lot at home anyways, and I was just getting really into like cooking healthy food. I was experimenting a lot with gluten-free baking. I just had become very interested. I don't have any certification in nutrition, but I had just become very interested in that.
Totally.
And she's an amazing baker and chef. Like,
Thank
Emma is the best.
Oh, you guys are a match made in heaven.
I know.
Damn, how'd you guys
know.
find each
It
other?
really
It's
worked out.
crazy.
Yeah. So I was searching for jobs, and there was a job listing for Stellar Eats, Stella's meal delivery service. So I literally called her on my lunch break, and I was like, hey, are you hiring? I want to quit my job. Should I come work for you? And she was like, yes, quit your job now and come work for me. So that's how it started, is I was just helping Stella in the kitchen with her meal delivery service.
So at that point, were you like helping her cook the meals, or like were you
Exactly.
doing really?
Yeah.
So Emma was in a commercial kitchen we had another employee. This was sort of, I started to move out of the kitchen, working more on, you know, marketing and just on the computer work behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So Emma was literally in the kitchen, but I would obviously be in the kitchen with them a lot of days. And we were bringing each other a lot of treats. We were both really into gluten-free baking and baking with nourishing ingredients. So we would always bring each other treats. And then
we just were talking a lot about, you know, potentially starting a business, sort of like exchanging ideas and stuff like that. And we wanted to create something that was obviously easier to scale. We didn't really want to work with fresh food anymore. And we came up with this idea for baking mixes, and that's kind of how it happened.
So yeah, the way that it happened was initially I was working on the kind of developing recipes. My cousin Michelle had come on as part of the meal delivery service to help with more of the finance and operations side of things. And so we started to look at the business more holistically and go, okay, you know, this is maybe not the most scalable product. We're limited to Toronto, first of all. fresh food, exactly.
Yeah.
All the things that make it challenging. So we were like, we wanted to change the business. And also just, I think from an ethos perspective, I never felt right just dropping meals on people's doorstep. I think a really big thing that Emma and I both believe is healthy eating should be easy and accessible to everybody.
Yeah.
And if we were away for a week or the meals didn't get delivered or something, then people were like, oh, then I'm back to takeout. And so I was like, I want people to feel like, oh, it's easy. Anyone can do this. So the baking mixes kind of felt like it solved so many problems. One, scalability, and two, just much more aligned with what we wanted to do and how to teach people to cook in their own kitchens and inspire that confidence.
So then when you made this decision, like, was it that you kind of had come up with like one baking mix and you were like, wait, this is like really good. Let me ditch the fresh food situation and like
Not
go
even.
this.
Not
Okay.
Like
really.
basically we had talked about it,
Yeah.
Emma and I, and then I went to Michelle and I basically was like, I have a crazy idea. Do you want to just change completely change our business model, like shut down the meal delivery and fully pivot this business? And at the time, Michelle and I had both put in a couple $1,000s into the business, and we looked at our bank account and we go, okay, we have $6,000. Shut down the meals. Let's take the $6,000 and just see what we can do. So, and at that point, we had loved working with Emma so much, and she's a way better baker than Michelle or I. So, we really were like, we want her to be a part of this next iteration of the business. And so then Michelle went into packaging research, Emma and I went into recipe development, and we just were in our kitchens basically testing recipes for like the whole pandemic.
I think it started with a cookie. We had a really good grain-free cookie recipe. So we kind of were starting with that. And then we were sort of like, okay, we want to launch with a couple different products. What else can we create? And that's when we started experimenting with the pizza dough, the cake, the biscuit. Those were our first 4 products.
Yeah, and we had certain parameters. Like we wanted it to be almond flour based. At the time, there was, especially in Canada where, you know, we started, there was a lot of gluten-free baking mixes that are great if you're celiac. They removed the gluten. But they sort of left all the other ingredients, like the
It's
white
like a lot
sugar.
of like rice flour. Yeah.
Yeah, and like the sugars are still white sugar, brown sugar. So we were like, what if we kind of took every ingredient and swapped it out for the most whole food source? So almond flour, coconut or date sugar. Instead of xanthan gum, we use a derivative of cassava root, which is tapioca and arrowroot starches. So we were sort of like, okay, can we keep the sugar content really low, but can we make the add-ins as easy as a Betty Crocker or a Duncan Hines?
Yeah.
Well,
So it was
and
pretty
then
challenging.
very challenging. And then the other thing that was so important to us and still is to this day is taste, because we felt like there weren't a lot of great gluten-free products on the market. Often people had to sacrifice, you know, taste or texture if they were making something gluten-free. And we really wanted to create products that were just as good, if not better, than their traditional counterparts. So no one had to sacrifice on that.
I mean, I can vouch for the taste. Like I was looking through like my podcast like notes, and I think I talked about you for the first time like last like November, I want to say, because that was the first time I tried it, and I was like, this is really freaking good. And I forget, I think it was like the carrot cake mix that I tried. It was like really, really good.
Oh,
Thank you.
so much.
Yeah, it's really important to us.
It means the world. That's
Yeah.
like music to our ears. When
Yeah.
people say things like it tastes good or it doesn't taste healthy, that's like
Yeah, that's the best
dream.
feedback.
I mean, even Nish, like my husband, had tried it as well, and he was like, I can't believe that this is like gluten-free and like really good for you, because it's genuinely, the taste is fantastic.
Oh,
Thank
thank
you.
you so much.
Thank you.
And I think, you know, when we started, we really didn't want to pigeonhole ourselves into just being for people that were gluten-free.
Totally.
Yeah.
And from a marketing perspective, I think that's been a challenge to try to shift that narrative to not only talking about the fact that it's gluten-free, but just really focusing on flavor.
Yeah.
And that everyone's going to love it. Picky husbands, picky kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we always say, you know, the gluten-free people are going to come to us anyway. So how do we get kind of everyone on board? You know, you obviously have a bit of an advantage with people who have celiac because they only have a smaller selection of products, but we want it to be for everyone, like people like you who say, oh, my husband tried it and loved it, or people bring it to their family and everyone says it doesn't taste gluten-free or it doesn't taste healthy.
But yeah, those early days were so funny. Like I said, we had, you know, a couple $1,000s in our bank account, and we literally bought one round of packaging, one round of ingredients. We rented a commercial kitchen in off hours because that's when other people weren't using their kitchen. So I think we arrived.
And it was cheaper.
And it was cheaper. I think we arrived at 11 p.m. like with our like
Stop.
Yeah.
backpacks and like a trolley.
Our first night in the kitchen was we felt so defeated after. We were like, oh no. What have we done?
we bought giant whisks
yeah.
because we didn't have like mixers.
We didn't have machines. We were
You were doing this by hand. That's
No.
fucking gnarly.
No, it's insane. And we were so naive. Like, we went in being like, we'll make 1,000 bags tonight, and I think we left with maybe 150 or 200.
Well, 1,000 is like that's a.
I mean,
a
that's
lot.
a
I
lot.
don't know what
That's
we
a
were
lot.
thinking. The three of us left the kitchen covered in almond flour and sugar and
Yeah.
just like sweat and tears and just sit like at 2 a.m. We're standing in a dark alleyway and we're like, okay, we did it.
We did it.
We did it. Like,
Yeah.
So then you bake this first batch. Like, what happens after that?
we had to go sell it because we needed that money in order to literally buy more ingredients. So I think we got a couple amazing retailers in Toronto right off the bat, which was
Really?
we got like Fiesta Farm, Summerhill Markets, Cocoa Market.
Wait. Okay. Pause, because
Yeah.
that's actually a big deal. So for people who are not from Toronto, like Summerhill Market is like iconic.
yeah.
Yeah, it's like our Air One.
Yeah,
like our
it
Air One.
is. It's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it's really incredible, and they always have the best brands. Like, how did that happen?
Emma and I showing up with baked
Mm-hmm.
cookies, being like, "Do you have a buyer?" And they were like, "Yeah, it's this guy." And we were like, "Do you want to try a cookie? Do you want to take our products?"
And he was like, sure. He tried the cookie, and he was like, yeah, I'll see what I can do.
He was like, "This is." I think all of them tried the cookie and went, "This is delicious."
Yeah.
You know, maybe took pity on us. I don't know, but they took them.
Yeah.
So
But that's like such a lesson for other entrepreneurs that like you have to do like the most unhinged
Oh,
but
yeah.
gritty shit.
so
Totally.
crazy.
You know, like you can't just like send a nice little email and then laptop closed, like sip your no. It's like you
Yes.
really got to show up on people's doorsteps
And
like
to
a
this-
psychopath.
It's so true.
And to this day, we even say like our secret sauce to getting into stores is us driving baked samples to the buyer directly in our cute little branded box and like make them all look nice. And
yeah.
you do that in LA all the time. That was
Yeah.
a huge benefit to having Emma move to LA, was literally having her be able to go drive delicious treats to people.
Yeah.
And you got us into like through that. We're now in Bristol Farms, Gelson's.
Is that how you
Mothers.
got you guys into Bristol Farms?
Yeah.
Shut the
And Gelson's, yeah. I went to the Gelson's head office, and I brought I had to set up a meeting with our buyer, but she was like, okay, sure. Brought her samples, and she was like, I love these. I'll take them.
Wait, that's incredible.
I know. That was such a good lesson, I think, for us to learn early on. And you guys know this too. It's so important to have face-to-face time.
Absolutely.
You know, and just show up in person. It makes such a big difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, that's incredible. Okay, so then you guys get into Summerhill Market, what you said, Cocoa Market
Yeah,
as
Cocoa
well. Yeah,
Market.
those are like all the good ones.
Yeah, they're really
Yeah.
great. So we got into there and they sold really fast. I think, it was very, I think that started to show us, okay, we have something here. It's not just us that likes these products. These are moving off shelf.
Yeah, and from the jump, we had kind of talked really early on and decided that we wanted to outsource our production as soon as possible because we had,
with whisks.
yeah,
You mean
it
you
was-
didn't want to use the large whisks?
It was obviously
at 11 p.m. at night?
Yeah,
Not
yeah.
ideal.
Obviously, that wasn't efficient, and we weren't really interested in building out our own production facility. Someone told us early on, you can be like a production and logistics company, or you can be a sales and marketing company, and we really wanted to focus on sales and marketing and outsource the production right away. So we did that, I think, within probably 6 to 8 months.
6 to 8 months.
Yeah.
Emma and I, no more not with the whisks.
Not with the
but-
whisks. We
but-
got proper equipment, and we made them ourselves
Yeah, we
for probably
rented
6 months.
a kitchen that had a mixer, and the two of us would still go in off hours mixing all the product. And I think we hit this point where we were like, we're holding ourselves back because even with these mixers, we're still hand pouring, hand bagging everything, and we're just pigeonholed because we can only make 200 to 400 a day. And then we found this co-packer, and they said, okay, our minimum order is 10,000 units. And that number at the beginning, when you're an entrepreneur making, a couple hundred a day, was so scary.
Yeah, it's terrifying.
Yeah.
It was a big number, and it required capital investment, which, we didn't have at the time. So we ended up meeting this wonderful angel investor who I worked with at a company previously on the marketing team. And she asked me what I was up to. I was like, oh, I kind of have this project. And so she came to Toronto, met with the team, got along with us so well, and was like, I think you guys have something. So she really took a swing early, like with us. And that was just, so amazing to have someone like that who was such an early champion. And then we went to our co-packer. They made 10,000 bags, and I've never been more scared in my life at that moment when I was like, we're sitting on 10,000 bags.
Like, we have to go sell these now.
So then what happened?
At that time, we finally had more time to spend on actually focusing on sales instead of being in the kitchen. So we really just kind of hit the ground running and started reaching out to every local retailer in Toronto and bringing
Canada.
samples, across Canada. And
I think within 2 months we were planning our next PO already.
Wow.
So it was it really showed us, whoa, when you put your energy somewhere, it has the potential to grow so much faster. Like, we didn't realize how much producing it ourselves was holding us back.
I think it's such an important realization because we went through something similar. It was with like the packaging that we were doing. So it was like initially, again, like you're entrepreneur, like DIY everything, right? So like at the start, it was just Nish and I like literally sitting there and packing each individual order.
Oh, yeah.
And we got to the point where we were getting like, I don't know, like 30, 40, 60 orders a day. And I remember being up till like 4 a.m. packing, going to bed, and then waking up at 8 to like do my regular work and then take breaks from my regular work to pack. And then it was just like, okay, we're like we're spending all this time packing, and it's taking away from the work that we could be doing to actually like grow the business more. So it's actually, I think, a really important realization that you come to. And honestly speaking, it's a little bit scary at the same time because that means that you need to put money into something else. And that's scary.
so true.
It was so scary. And I love what you said about the packaging. We feel that in our soul. We used to hand sticker every bag, front and back. Hours and hours of time stickering every bag. And today, when I'm in the grocery store and I see bags that are hand stickered, I'm like, I'm gonna buy that.
Yeah,
it's like you guys are
I know how
hustling.
much went into that.
You understand on like a visceral level. And like
exactly.
And like it's so funny because we would get these bigger orders from our retailers, and part of you was so excited that the business is growing, and part of you is like, oh shit, now we have to go make all that product. And so we were kind of, it was like it was holding back the business because of even our attitude about having to make everything.
Yeah.
So then we just got to sell, and it went way better than I think either of us intended.
So then at what point then did you have, because like I would say like your coffee cake mix is probably your most viral product, right? Like at what point did that come into the whole mix? And at what point as well did you have a realization that like, damn, okay, like we're growing really fast, like this is like actually something?
Okay, I think two things. Coffee cake is maybe separate from this, but in 2021, so we had only been in business for a year. Erewhon,
when did you launch?
We launched in 2020.
What like
beginning of 2020.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're very similar.
Between January and March 2020 pandemic.
Exactly. So we had been in business for a year in Canada only. And we got an email from Erewhon Market, and they were asking if they could get samples of our product because they were interested in bringing it in. And we had thought about going to the US, but we didn't have a plan in place to go to the US that quickly. And we thought the email was a joke. Like, we thought it was spam or something.
We were like, we're being pranked.
Yeah.
Like Erewhon Market.
There's no way. Yeah. There's no way Erewhon Market. So that kind of forced us to really get our shit together very quickly. And we had to produce US packaging because there's obviously different requirements for the packaging, and produce that, and then kind of figure out how to ship it across the border. So that happened pretty quickly, and I feel like that was a big push that kind of made us be like, okay, this is definitely a real thing. We're going to the US now.
Yeah, like buckle up.
Buckle up.
Going,
Yeah.
And Emma and I flew to LA peak pandemic when no one was flying. The airports were empty. Well, Canada was still really shut down. The US was obviously more open. And it was just this crazy experience where we hadn't been around people. The Canadian airport was completely empty. We arrive in LA. It's like never been more crowded.
LAX is packed.
Like, oh my God.
We're like, oh, okay. It's different here.
It's different here. And then we went and did demos at every single Erewhon, baked treats, and handed them out in every store for the launch. And then the coffee cake product, now you're right, is like our hero product. That one's at Erewhon now too as well. But the craziest thing about that was I had done this accelerator program in based in Chicago, and one of the women in the program with me was Samantha Abramson, who's the founder of Just Date. So they make date syrups and date sugars and pomegranate syrup. And we just clicked right away, and we had such similar product ethos, and, you know, our missions were so aligned. And so we were kind of like, we need to do something together. And then I think because Emma now develops most of the recipes, and I just, you know, I'm her little helper. But I think I called her and I was like, can we do something with date sugar?
And we had coffee cake on our list for a while. We kind of have a running, you know, list of ideas, and we had been talking about coffee cake for a while, and we were just like, we feel like coffee cake is the perfect fit to use this date sugar in. And so we just started working on the recipe. Stella actually came up with the brilliant idea to you remove some of the mix from the package when you get it, like when you're about to bake it, and you mix it with butter, and that becomes the streusel topping. Yes, which is so important to a coffee cake, right?
Absolutely. Instead of having like a separate plastic bag of something else in the mix, we were like, what if we just used the literal mix?
So that was genius. Shout out to you for that.
Thank you. My one coffee cake contribution. And then Whole Foods Market US took coffee cake nationally.
Wait, you have to tell everyone how that happened, because getting into Whole Foods is like, it is such a big deal. You guys should be so freaking proud of yourselves if you aren't already. Like, it's a huge deal. So how did that come to happen?
It's so funny you say that. It's so important to celebrate those wins, because I remember we got listed in Whole Foods Canada. All of our SKUs got on shelf in Whole Foods Canada, and obviously Whole Foods Canada is a bit smaller than Whole Foods US.
But still a big deal.
It's a huge deal. It was our, you know, our number one goal, like, since starting the business. And so when we went into Whole Foods and took pictures on shelf, I feel like we didn't even have a moment to celebrate before we were like, okay, but now we're in Whole Foods US, like, review.
Yeah.
But it's so important to take a moment and be like, okay, we're on shelf. This is an exciting moment. Now we can focus on what's next.
Yeah, totally.
Whole Foods, like many big chains, and this is something we learned on the fly, is that they have these review cycles. So they basically review each category once a year. So you have kind of one shot in a year to get your product on shelf, and they test probably hundreds and hundreds of products. And then they decide what they're going to take and what they're going to kick off shelf. And then if you don't get on, you have to wait a whole other year. So it was a really big deal when we got that coffee cake listing. And I remember it was funny, the way we found out wasn't even like they told us. It was like a regulatory system that they use reached out to our email with a very automated, like, please submit your coffee cake for Whole Foods National. And we were like, what? Oh my gosh, did we just get it?
And we had launched that product as an online exclusive when we launched. So I think, we probably had the benefit of drumming up a bit of excitement for that product. We did a lot of marketing around it. So I think that definitely helped with the Whole Foods review, and the fact that it was sweetened with date sugar, because I believe there's no other baking mix, especially at Whole Foods, that is sweetened with date sugar. So I think, is that true?
I think there's might be one or two now, but we're definitely the only gluten-free date sugar.
Grain-free, gluten-free,
dairy-free, all the frees.
Yeah. So that was super, super exciting, and that was our biggest national launch by far. I mean, Whole Foods has over 500 stores across the country, so we had to open up distribution centers across the U.S., which, we were kind of only in certain regions before that, so it was definitely a big deal.
We learned a lot.
A logistical big deal, too.
We learned a lot, and I think it helped us so much. With that, they're such a friendly partner. They're such a good partner. So being able to start with a company like Whole Foods as a national chain rollout, I think it really helped. Like, now we just launched at Loblaws in Canada and Bulk Barn, so that's hundreds and hundreds of stores, but I feel like we went in a lot more prepared because we're like, okay, we've done this once before.
Yeah.
I mean, after Whole Foods, I feel like, even the Loblaws is a really big deal too. That's
they're pretty big.
They're huge.
Yeah.
That's where
like
I used to grocery shop when I was little, that was
same.
like our Whole Foods when I was like younger, so that's a really big deal.
Thank you so much. Thank you. But a lot of it is, we've learned a lot on the go.
Yeah, truly.
So how are you guys working on cultivating community and because obviously I think retail is one thing, but then also I think a brand's kind of presence has to be there so that people are going and rooting for the brand when you do kind of launch on retail shelves. So any tips for other founders in the food business on how you do that piece of things?
I think there's a few things. Definitely, we try to have sort of a personal relationship with our customers, obviously treating your customers really well, talking to them, answering their questions, answering their messages on social media. I think, you know, people have said this, but kind of like treating your customers like they're influencers or other people like that, and just kind of including them in everything, because they're the ones that really, you know, made your product what it is at the end of the day.
We have a Stella Eats group chat on Instagram of customers that, you know, we like, when we were thinking about new product ideas, we'll run it by them. And those are just, it's just a group of really loyal customers.
Such a good idea.
We threw it out on our Instagram stories, who wants to be a part of the Stella Eats group chat, anyone could join. So basically now we just run ideas by them, and they've been so helpful as people that buy our product. We're like, would you rather this or this? And they really guide us in a lot of ways.
I think people underutilize that customer base that they have, because like I really do think that you get the best ideas from the people who actually buy your products, because I think it also helps you kind of get out of the headspace of like a founder into like consumer land, you know, like, because I feel like when you're a founder, you're in the business, but then a consumer is often thinking of it in like a different kind of way. So sometimes you'll be like thinking that something's a good idea, and then the consumer is like, no.
Yeah.
I love that you said that, and this is actually such a funny story. We have this new product line that we just launched of our single-serve mug cakes.
Yeah.
And that idea literally came from a customer who reached out to us and said, I love your brownie mix, but whenever I make it, I eat the whole tray. Have you guys ever tried microwaving a couple tablespoons of it with some almond milk? It makes a great mug brownie.
She was like, I do it all the time. I make it weekly. And we were like, what? That's genius.
Wait, that's so, because I actually love the mug cake, because the brownie mix, I use that in a mug cake format, and I put it into my air fryer, by the way.
Same.
Yeah.
So good in the air fryer.
So good.
And so fast. I don't have a microwave, so I use the air fryer.
Same.
Yes.
Well, my microwave's in our back house, and so and I don't like using a microwave. Truthfully, I think I don't like it at all. It makes things taste weird, in my opinion. So I love the air fryer hack, because the oven takes too damn long.
Totally.
Yes.
And I'm just like, stick it into the air fryer. It's done.
The best. It's the best. It takes like 8 minutes.
We need to add air fryer instructions.
Yeah,
I agree.
Should.
I agree.
100%.
I really think you need to, because I think a lot of people do that, because not everyone wants to use the oven, and I'm guessing like not everyone wants to use the microwave either. So the air frying instructions, so smart.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely.
but it's so funny that idea came from a customer. Now it's this totally new product line taken on by a lot of our best retailers. That was fully from a customer.
I don't think anyone really is doing single serving like healthy mixes. Like
definitely
no
none.
one.
No, none with our ingredient profile.
And I really think it's such a smart idea, because I'm the same as you guys, or like that customer specifically, who like, I don't necessarily want to have like that many like treats at home. And also like, I feel like it's so good when it's like fresh, and it's just Nish and I who live at our house. So it's not like, you know, we have this entire family to like share all the stuff with. So it's nice when it's like a quick single serving, like just want to get a little treat in after dinner. So good.
And so quick. Like if you're about to watch a movie and you're like, oh, we don't have chocolate. I'm like, yes, we do.
Yeah.
We have
I
mug
eat
cakes.
it all the time. Yeah. It's so good.
I also saw the recipe that you guys showed on your Instagram. It was like the chocolate brownie, but with brown butter and marshmallows.
So good.
Are you
brownies?
kidding me?
The brownies with brown butter are so good. They're my favorite gluten-free brownies.
Yeah. Me too.
Yeah. They're so good.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So yummy. Yeah. So I'm gonna do that at home tonight.
Love that. Oh my gosh.
I know, I was kind of
Please do.
scared to make brown butter, but you really motivated me.
Brown butter and everything.
Yeah, brown butter also so easy.
So easy.
I know, I was just so scared I was gonna burn it, but Emma was like, just watch.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
you'll see.
Sweet. It's good on sweet and savory.
Oh
things.
God,
It's
yes.
so good.
It's so good. But I like never thought to do it like that. And so like this is actually a call out to whoever is doing your Instagram. Really good job. That's you.
Yeah.
Really good job. Because
you.
I'm like, these recipes are so good, and it kind of goes back to what you'd said earlier, where like, yes, you have the segment of people who are like gluten free, who will come to your brand regardless, but then that's your way of capturing this entire market who, you know, wouldn't have maybe heard of the brand, but then you see that you can make like brown butter brownies
Exactly.
with marshmallows, and damn, who doesn't want that?
Exactly. And even for people who aren't gluten-free, you know, people are reading ingredient labels more now. They want something with real whole ingredients that they can recognize. So I think we also kind of have that benefit, even if people don't care about a gluten-free product.
Yeah, and just a moment to appreciate Emma's social content. I feel like, she does an amazing job, and especially at really, you have all these different content buckets. One being obviously showing the product, but you don't want to look too much like a food blog, and you don't want to be hammering people over the head with just your physical products.
Yeah.
And so then you're so good at sprinkling in like our founder story as well and the mission behind the brand. Emma and I, something that really bonded us, and I think something that kind of gave us this confidence to start a business together, was we had this really similar journey growing up. We both unfortunately struggled with eating disorders when we were teenagers and into like early 20s, and I think in coming out of that we bonded so much over our recovery and learning to make food that was made with nourishing ingredients but made us feel really good. Whereas we grew up in this culture of everything healthy was marketed as skinny or like flat tummy or all these diet, light, everything. And so we were like, what if we made this different kind of wellness brand that spoke to customers with respect? And I think we've heard from a lot of people, like, maybe we'd sell more cookies if we called them skinny cookies, but like, we'll just never do that.
Yeah.
We just want people to feel like these are made with amazing ingredients that make you feel really good. So telling that story on social, I think, is also...
Yeah, we try to do that.
And like not restrictive, and like also I saw that you guys had done a video about like carbs are like really not the enemy, and it's like it's so true, right? Like unfortunately we've been fed this narrative, and like you need the damn carbs. Like I like strength train at the gym, and I need those carbs to like actually go and like lift what I'm lifting, and so like I think it's the source of the food. Like it has to be like good, healthy, nourishing, you know, exactly like you guys do, but the carbs are really not the enemy.
Oh, totally. And like you need the protein, you need the fiber. You should see my response when someone sends us a message being like, how many calories are in this? I go off. I'm like, well, there's this, but calories are actually a really poor measurement of what you're ingesting. And like, here's what all our products have. It's protein, it's fiber, it's healthy fat, it's all these things that are going to make you feel really good. And they're like, girl, I just wanted the number.
I wanted the calories.
No, but you know what? That education is important. And like, you never know, like maybe out of like the 100 people that reach out with those types of messages, even if you can get through to like 3 of them, like you're making a difference, and oftentimes like I think like it's just predated information almost that people are relying on, and they just don't understand. So
for sure, even now that how much our generation understands that fat is so important, like healthy fats are so good for you, whereas I feel like growing up, everything was light, everything was low fat, and now we know how detrimental that is to like brain health and skin health and all of these things.
Yeah, it's really no good.
Yeah.
So you guys are obviously both really busy founders, and so I want to understand, how do you guys manage time, and any tips there?
Great question. Obviously, as an entrepreneur, it can be tough because you're juggling so many different things and wearing so many different hats. And I think when we started out, we were very much doing everything all the time. I think we've gotten to a place where we have a great team now, and we kind of all focus on different specific areas. So I think that helps a lot. Like for me, I work on marketing and product, and then Stella and I do some sales together. So it definitely helps to be able to focus on something a little bit more specific versus being in every meeting, trying to be in every single part of the business.
I feel like we had a call where me, you, and Michelle, we all ended up on a call with a new shipping warehouse. And I feel like after the call, the 3 of us looked at each other and we were like, why were we all on that call? That's crazy. Like, default should be one of us on the call. If you must call in someone else, you can. But I think definitely division of labor. And then I have a baby now with another one on the way. And so I think that kind of forces a little bit of, when I'm working, and when I'm not, I'm trying to be as present as possible. So it's kind of a nice way to really pull you out of that need to be working all the time mindset, just because you literally can't.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And I think, dedicating different blocks of time for different things. Obviously, we know that works for a lot of people, but for me, sometimes I find if I'm working on something really creative, I won't look at my email for those 2 hours. Like I'll put my phone on Do Not Disturb because I want my head to be in that one space and not get distracted, because you can just get distracted and pulled off course all day long if you let yourself, right? So just kind of being able to focus on very specific areas and kind of leaving the other ones for after, when you can put your attention to that.
Do you feel like that with more employees, you get pulled more, or do you get to focus more?
I mean, look, I think it completely depends on the time, you know, and I think Nish and I have done a good job on like empowering our team to not need us to like handhold them for everything. But for example, like we just launched our new product Tribiotic today, right? Or sorry, yesterday, not today.
Oh my
yesterday.
gosh,
Congratulations.
thank you. That's so
But
exciting.
pre-product launch, I mean, it's a madhouse, you know, and there's like you will literally be pulled in many different directions, and you kind of just have to be okay with it. Like I've always been someone who's really protective of my time, but at the same time, I've like throughout this journey, I've learned that like it's kind of, it goes in ebbs and flows, and like some periods you can be like really protective and like really like particular about like time blocking and like be really good about that, and at other times when it's chaos, you kind of have to like embrace the chaos and just get it done.
That is so true. That's so true. I think we go through different periods where sometimes you're just all over the place and you have to be totally okay with it.
I love to see another company launch something, or on social, we're all, you know, we see it and we're like, oh my gosh, this looks like the most glossy, seamless launch.
Yeah.
But like behind the scenes,
It's chaos.
It's full chaos. Like we, so for us, like Q4, I think for everyone, it's like ridiculous.
Yeah.
We had a product launch on top of it, and the summer was like we launched a product, MB1. It was like in July, and then like August was like calm, and then we went to Ibiza end of August and like into like early September. It was like so nice and so chill, and then we came back, and I was talking to my assistant today. I was like, I don't even know like what we've done in this time between we got back and now. I feel like I've lived 100 lives because it's chaotic, and you know what?
Yeah.
These things happen.
Yes.
No, it's so true.
chaotic. It's like everything goes wrong during a product launch. There's no such thing as a smooth product launch. Like we had so many issues with our new product, which was literally just a small iteration of our full format mixes. So we were like, how hard can it be?
It's hard.
New packaging, new production line, like it just,
There's always something, and it's so funny because, you know, I was like, and we always do this, like, and we get better, of course, with every launch, but I was like, you guys, like I was talking to my email team before, like, you know, like a month ago or whatever, and I was like, okay, like this product launch, we're going to have all emails, pre-launch, launch, post-launch done 1 month in advance. And they're like, yeah. And then the day before launch, post-launch emails are changing, and I'm like, how the fuck are we here? Like, what just happened?
gosh.
Like,
I'm so glad we're not the only one.
We really fly by the
Yeah.
seat of our pants
Yeah.
so often. Like,
Yeah.
we're like, if people knew what, even with this Loblaws launch, for example, rolling out on grocery store shelves, I'm sure you know, can be so complicated. There's logistical hiccups. There's hiccups with the POs. So basically the day we launched, we were like, oh gosh, we need to go film all the social content today.
Because they also don't tell you what day you land on shelf. You kind of have to just figure it out and go, you know, approximately. So we're like, oh my God, we need to get our stuff together. We need to go film.
So like me, I'm driving around to different Loblaw stores, filming the shelves. I'm just sending the videos to Emma, who's like editing them together on the fly, like recording voiceovers, posting them. Like that was our launch strategy.
Yeah. Sometimes it's very well planned out, and sometimes it's like that.
yeah, it's always a little bit of insanity. But you know what? That's what keeps it fun and interesting.
Totally.
100%.
Totally. And you have to be okay with that as an entrepreneur.
100%.
You know, you got to just go with it.
Absolutely. So, okay, speaking of, do you guys have any like non-negotiables that you have in terms of like, you know, self-care, wellness, all of those things? Because I think it's so interesting, like being an entrepreneur, especially in the wellness space. I feel like it can be almost like a dichotomy because you are interested in wellness, but at the same time, sometimes you are very unwell. Yeah. So I like to have non-negotiables. What are yours?
Yeah, so for me, definitely moving to LA has made that a lot better and easier for me because I love being outside. I love walking. I love hiking. I'm on a mission, by the way, to convince people that LA can be a walking city if you know where to walk and if you live in the right neighborhood. Everyone thinks that it's not, but I love walking. I'll walk to coffee shops.
Same.
Go on hikes. That's so important for me. Working out, like just, you know, being physically active. And then I really do try to take the weekends off because I feel like coming in on Monday with a fresh brain, not thinking about work too much on the weekend really helps.
For sure. I think we are pretty protective of our weekends and with our team as well. I think the times where we work weekends, it's like something has gone really awry.
Yeah.
Which obviously that happens sometimes and you have to be prepared. But protecting that space, like you said, coming back in with a fresh mind, I think just makes you that much more, it just makes you better at your job when you are focused. And then I think for me, I love to cook. I mean, that's like food is just my happy place. The kitchen is my happy place. I know you feel similarly. And so having space at night to cook dinner is just so important to me, and spend, time with family. Like I said, I think having kids also really forces, it's like, well, I'm not going to be sitting on my computer while my toddler's running around screaming. Maybe that means I'm doing things later when she's asleep, but it's like, okay, I'm off right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think sort of in a similar vein for me, especially moving somewhere new where I didn't have as many friends as I had maybe back in Toronto, but it's been really important for me to make an effort to have social contact with people, because obviously as an entrepreneur, you're at home a lot. If you work from home, you're kind of just in your work. Sometimes you're tired at the end of the day and you don't want to do anything, but making an effort to actually meet up with friends and go do things in the evenings and on the weekends really helps me as well.
I agree. And, I think the one, I guess, like underlooked part of what you just said is that oftentimes you get really good ideas from people.
Yes.
Like whether that's like an intro to someone or just like a good idea. Like sometimes I'll go out for a walk with like one of my friends who's like also an entrepreneur, and like they'll just give me an idea and I'm like, wait a minute, why didn't I think of that? Or like, I don't know, I was out for dinner like a couple of weeks back with two of my friends, and like one of my friends just mentioned something about like a company that she uses for something, and I was like, wait, can you intro me? Like that's crazy. Like that's exactly what we've been looking for. She's like, yeah, I got you. And just like that, I'm like, damn, like I solved such a big problem just by going out for dinner.
Oh, that's amazing.
That's so
I
true.
love that.
And it goes back to what you were saying before about being so in the business. Obviously, when you're just talking to your team all the time and you're working in your business, sometimes you need to get ideas from outside of that circle.
An echo chamber.
Yeah, exactly. So it really helps for that too. Yeah.
Amazing. You guys, this has been awesome. Tell everyone where they can find you. Instagram, website, all of the things.
Thank you so much. This has been so fun. You can find us at stellar.eats on Instagram and TikTok.
Mm-hmm. Stellareats.com. You can order our products there. We're also in grocery stores around the country, Whole Foods. You can find our coffee cake mix.
And then how can people follow you guys if they want to?
I'm at stellar.health on Instagram.
Amazing.
I have a food account also called Kula's Kitchen. That's my last name.
I love that.
Yeah, Kula's _ kitchen.
Amazing recipes. You guys should follow her too.
Amazing. Thank you guys so much for being here.
Thank you for having
so much.
us.
It was so fun.